It just became this series of stories. And so we wrote the book just to help other people know that they're not alone.
One of the stories in the book was being a mom of special needs children. I understand the looks that you get. I understand the phone calls you get. I think my son is the only one that managed to get kicked out of 6 different daycares. I'm not kidding. Okay, it's a little hard to get kicked out of daycare, but he managed to do it when he was little. And as I was reading through your different stories, and the one about calling, okay, your son's favorite candy is Sour Patch, and I'll let you go on about that a little bit, but I really could relate to your pain and to your frustration and that feeling of, Guy, how do I do this? So I'd like you to tell that story. And
well, the tagline for Sour Patch Kids is, first they're sour and then they're sweet. So when my son has what we call meltdowns and becomes really frustrated and angry and sometimes causes damage to the drywall or the front door or various parts of the house or is just having a kicking and screaming fit, we let it ride its course and then we say, okay, you've had your sour time, now it's time to be sweet. So I tell him, I love you, you're my Sour Patch Kid, and now it's time to turn off that anger and just become the sweet boy that we love.
She had children and what happened there, and how, because of her experience in her youth, has helped prepare her for now adulthood and having these children.
Yes.
Well, I do have a number of friends on Facebook who are also autistic. I myself was diagnosed with Asperger Syndrome after my son received his diagnosis. So I was in my 40s when I got my diagnosis. And I realized at that time that it all made so much sense, because growing up, I never felt like I fit in. I felt like I was the fly on the wall observing life as opposed to participating in life. And I was the middle child, and my older sister did everything first and best, and my younger sister was then the baby. And I never felt like I really fit in. I was kind of the extra wheel in this perfect family of 4 almost. And I do think that, having that understanding and now realizing that I too have Asperger's, I really understand my children better, and I can really relate to how to help them through the world, because I just felt at times like I wasn't part of the world and I didn't know how to relate and how to make friends, and I really felt like I was a loner. And I just knew there had to be a lot of other people out there who had those same feelings. And part of writing the book was what my husband and I learned along the way. And, again, at Thanksgiving time, I really have to thank him, because he was pretty much our savior. I was a single parent for many years and raised the children alone. And when Glenn and I married, we each had 2 children of our own. And he has become the father that they've never known. We play classical music and they draw, and we discovered that being in nature and being with animals has just really, really calmed them. I have a friend who has 62 alpacas on her farm.
Oh, wow.
And, my son can get out there in the field and they come up, and they're not like camels. They don't spit in a mean way. They spit at each other, but not at humans. And so they hum. And they just do this soft, gentle humming. And so being with animals is a very special bond for special needs kids. And art. So I started this nonprofit organization called the Lavender Door Foundation. And it's to increase access to the fine arts for other youth who are on the autism spectrum. Because art is the one thing that I've discovered really, really works for my children. It always makes me feel kind of funny when people say that I'm an expert, because I don't consider myself an expert. I just share what's worked for me. And this may not work for everybody, but, this is one mother sharing her stories of what's worked for us, and to try and help people. So we use art as a form to cut down anxieties. And we have a little curriculum that I've developed that is a self-esteem building curriculum.
What you need to tell your children, too, is, aren't you proud of yourself of what you just did? Not the I'm proud of you is part of it, but then turn it around. Aren't you proud of that art piece? Aren't you proud of that job? Aren't you proud of what you just did? And that helps them gain self-esteem. And I just really appreciated that piece of advice from her.
That's one thing we do in the self-esteem curriculum for the nonprofit organization, is have them take a statement, that something that they don't feel good about themselves, and turn it into a positive. So just rewrite that. If someone says you're ugly or you're stupid, write it in a positive. I'm smart. I'm brilliant. I just don't feel it yet, but I'm brilliant. And keep saying that and write it as a positive affirmation and read it to yourself over and over. And that just really makes a difference again in their self-esteem. And, you know, children just, any child just desperately needs that in this world. It's, you know, it's a scary world out there. It's very different than when we grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And I think they just need to be reassured and reaffirmed and really supported and loved.
And the last thing, too, you school teachers out there, Jan's daughter had a school teacher tell her this, and I had a school teacher tell me that I was stupid. Don't ever tell the children they're stupid. It's one of the worst things you could ever tell anybody because they might actually believe you.
Author website is www.jbeaverbooks.com.
Did you tell me that's available on the Kindle too?
It is. It's now out in a Kindle version, an ebook.
Awesome.
So the paperback book retails for $8.95, and the Kindle version is only $5.95. So it's a great Christmas present, not an expensive gift. You know, I would love to see not only parents of special needs children read this book, but also any parent, because they can get a better understanding of what parents with special needs children go through. And hopefully that can cut down on some of the discrimination for those children and what they face.
It really is a lot of fun to be able to share those stories and hear those stories.
Well, I'm also working on a memoir about growing up with undiagnosed Asperger Syndrome, because I did go through a lot of really low points in my life. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't feel like I was accepted. I went through some abusive relationships where I married inappropriately and learned a lot of lessons along the way. So I'm writing that book as well, and hope it'll be out soon.
Okay, Jan, one more time before we get out of here. How do we get your book?
It's www.jbeaverbooks.com.